For more than 5 decades, Sam Elliott has represented a version of masculinity Hollywood rarely creates anymore. The deep voice, the slow, deliberate way of speaking, the rugged cowboy image that made audiences instantly trust him the moment he appeared on screen. He became the kind of actor people believed was exactly the same in real life as he was in movies: calm, loyal, tough, and impossible to shake emotionally. But according to people who knew him closely, that image never told the full story. Behind the legendary career was a man carrying emotional wounds he almost never discussed publicly. For decades, fans speculated about hidden heartbreaks, private struggles, and rumors involving a woman many believed changed his life forever. While most Hollywood celebrities spent years trying to control media narratives, Elliott did the opposite. He stayed silent, and sometimes silence creates even bigger mysteries. Now, at 81 years old, Sam Elliott is speaking more openly than ever before. And one emotional statement has reignited rumors that have followed him for nearly half a century. "She was the love of my life." The sentence itself sounded simple, but the way he said it reportedly left viewers stunned. There was pain in his voice, reflection, even regret. Almost immediately, longtime fans began asking the same question: who exactly was he talking about? To understand why this moment matters so much, you have to go back to the beginning of Sam Elliott's rise in Hollywood. Long before he became an American icon, Elliott was just another struggling actor trying to survive in California. He didn't fit the traditional Hollywood mold. Producers thought he looked too Western. Others believed his slow-speaking style would never work in modern films. While flashy stars dominated magazine covers, Elliott spent years taking small roles and barely earning enough money to stay afloat. Those who knew him during that period described him as deeply private but intensely emotional beneath the surface. Friends claimed he fell hard when he loved someone, but he rarely trusted people completely. That combination made relationships difficult. Hollywood itself didn't help either. The entertainment industry has destroyed countless romances, especially for actors trying desperately to build careers before fame disappears forever. Then came Katharine Ross. To the public, their relationship eventually became one of Hollywood's most respected love stories. Fans admired them because they survived when so many celebrity marriages collapsed under pressure. They looked authentic, real. Older interviews showed genuine chemistry between them that audiences rarely see anymore. But according to rumors circulating for decades, their relationship was far more complicated behind closed doors than fans realized. Some insiders claimed Elliott struggled with insecurity early in his career because Ross was already an established star before he reached major fame. Others whispered that intense jealousy sometimes created emotional distance between them. Tabloids from the late 1970s and early 1980s occasionally hinted at tension, though neither actor publicly addressed most of the speculation. And then there were the rumors about another woman. For years, Hollywood gossip circles quietly discussed claims that Elliott experienced a devastating relationship before his marriage fully stabilized. The alleged romance was never officially confirmed, which only made public curiosity grow stronger over time. Some believed the woman walked away from him unexpectedly. Others claimed outside pressures destroyed the relationship before it could become serious. A few even suggested the heartbreak fundamentally changed Elliott forever. What makes the mystery fascinating is how carefully Elliott guarded his private life afterward. Unlike many celebrities, he almost never gave revealing interviews about romance. He avoided discussing emotional pain publicly. Even when interviewers tried steering conversations toward personal relationships, Elliott usually redirected attention back toward work, films, or family. To some fans, that restraint appeared admirable. To others, it looked like a man hiding unresolved pain. Over time, the rumors faded into Hollywood history. But recently something changed. As Elliott entered his 80s, fans noticed he began speaking differently during interviews. The tough cowboy persona softened slightly. He reflected more openly on aging, mortality, and the people who shaped his life. In one particularly emotional conversation, he reportedly paused while discussing love and quietly admitted that certain memories never disappear no matter how much time passes. That was when he delivered the line now spreading across social media. "She was the love of my life." Within hours, fans began dissecting every word. Many immediately assumed he meant Katharine Ross, but others became convinced there was more behind the statement. Online forums exploded with theories connecting old interviews, forgotten tabloid rumors, and stories from earlier in Elliott's career. Some users claimed body language experts noticed visible sadness in his expression while speaking. Others believed he sounded like a man haunted by unresolved memories. The speculation grew even stronger because Elliott refused to clarify the comment afterward. That silence only fueled public fascination. For decades, Sam Elliott built his reputation on emotional control. He rarely lost composure publicly. He rarely appeared vulnerable. That's why this moment shocked so many people. Fans were suddenly seeing not the legendary cowboy hero, but an elderly man confronting the emotional reality of time passing faster than expected. And according to some close observers, that emotional shift may have deeper roots than audiences realize. People who worked with Elliott over the years often described him as someone deeply affected by loss. Friends reportedly noticed periods where he became unusually withdrawn, especially after personal disappointments or family hardships. While he continued delivering powerful performances on screen, some insiders believed he carried emotional burdens privately for years. That hidden sadness may explain why audiences connect so strongly with him today. Unlike many celebrities who constantly seek attention, Elliott's emotional restraint makes rare vulnerable moments feel authentic. When he speaks about regret, people believe him. When he talks about love, audiences sense genuine experience behind the words. And when he appears emotional discussing the past, fans feel they are finally seeing the real man beneath the Hollywood legend. But perhaps the most heartbreaking part of the story is what Elliott reportedly said next during the interview. After reflecting on love and the passing of time, he quietly admitted that life moves so quickly people often fail to appreciate meaningful relationships until much later. According to viewers present during the conversation, there was a long silence afterward. Not the comfortable silence of confidence, but the silence of someone remembering moments they wish they could relive. At that moment, the rumors surrounding Sam Elliott stopped feeling like celebrity gossip. Instead, they became something much more human. The story of a man who spent decades appearing fearless while privately carrying emotional memories the public never fully understood. And according to some Hollywood insiders, the truth behind that mysterious woman, and the heartbreak attached to her, may still remain hidden to this day. As the interview continued, the atmosphere reportedly became heavier with every passing minute. Viewers expected the usual Hollywood nostalgia, stories about old movies, famous directors, and life on film sets. Instead, Sam Elliott appeared unusually reflective, almost like a man revisiting memories he had spent years trying to keep buried. What stood out most was not simply what he said, but what he avoided saying. Several times during the conversation, Elliott paused before answering questions about love, loyalty, and sacrifice. Those pauses became impossible for fans to ignore. In Hollywood, celebrities are trained to answer quickly, smoothly, and carefully. But Elliott looked different. At moments, he seemed caught between protecting his privacy and finally admitting truths he no longer had the energy to hide. That tension is exactly why the rumors exploded again online. Many longtime fans began revisiting old footage from earlier decades, searching for clues hidden in plain sight. One particular interview from years ago suddenly gained new attention after viewers noticed Elliott becoming visibly emotional when discussing missed opportunities in life. At the time, most people ignored it, but now, after his recent confession, fans believe those moments may have revealed far more than anyone realized. Some theories became even darker. A growing number of people started speculating that Elliott's emotional comments were connected not only to lost love, but also to regret. Regret over choices made during the height of his fame. Regret over time spent away from people who mattered most. And perhaps regret over remaining silent for too many years. Hollywood insiders have long claimed that Elliott struggled with the emotional pressure of maintaining his public image. The cowboy persona made him legendary, but it also trapped him in a role audiences expected him to play constantly. Tough men are not supposed to cry publicly. Tough men are not supposed to discuss heartbreak. And tough men certainly are not supposed to admit that memories from decades ago still affect them emotionally. But aging changes even the strongest people. At 81, Elliott reportedly no longer seems interested in protecting the myth Hollywood built around him. Fans watching recent appearances notice something rare: vulnerability. His voice still carries that famous power, but there is now a softness underneath it that was absent years ago. Some viewers described it as heartbreaking, especially because it feels genuine rather than performative. And then came another surprising moment. When asked about the secret to lasting relationships, Elliott gave an answer many fans were not expecting. Instead of offering some glamorous Hollywood response, he quietly admitted that real love often involves pain people never see publicly. According to those present, the room became almost completely silent after he spoke. That single comment immediately reignited theories surrounding his marriage to Katharine Ross. Although the couple remained together for decades, rumors about emotional struggles never completely disappeared. Old tabloid reports described periods of tension, arguments, and emotional distance caused by career demands. Some reports were probably exaggerated by gossip magazines desperate for headlines, but others may have contained fragments of truth hidden beneath sensationalism. Fans now wonder whether Elliott's recent reflections were indirectly acknowledging those painful years. What makes the situation even more emotional is how strongly audiences identify with him now. For years, Sam Elliott represented stability in a world that seemed increasingly artificial. While celebrity scandals dominated headlines, he appeared grounded and authentic. That image made fans trust him deeply. Seeing someone like Elliott openly wrestling with regret and emotional pain feels almost shocking, because people assumed he had somehow escaped the struggles affecting everyone else. But no one escapes time. And perhaps that realization is exactly what Elliott is finally confronting publicly. Several entertainment commentators pointed out that Elliott's recent interviews carry a recurring theme: looking backward. He frequently discusses memory, aging, and how quickly life disappears. There's a sadness in those reflections that longtime fans say was never visible before. It's the sadness of someone realizing certain chapters of life can never be revisited, no matter how much you wish otherwise. Some believe this emotional transformation began after Elliott started slowing down professionally. During the busiest years of his career, work may have distracted him from difficult emotions. Constant filming, travel, and public appearances leave little room for reflection. But aging often forces people into quieter moments where old memories return unexpectedly. And according to people close to the actor, Elliott has become far more introspective in recent years. Friends reportedly describe him as thoughtful, nostalgic, and increasingly emotional when discussing the past. One insider even claimed Elliott sometimes speaks about earlier periods of his life with visible sadness, particularly when conversations turn toward relationships and personal sacrifices. That claim only intensified public curiosity surrounding the mysterious love of his life comment. Was he speaking purely about Katharine Ross? Was he reflecting on another relationship entirely? Or was the statement less about one specific woman and more about the emotional cost of an entire lifetime spent balancing fame, love, and personal identity? No one knows for certain. And perhaps that uncertainty is what makes the story so compelling. Because beneath the rumors and speculation lies something painfully universal: the fear of looking back on life and wondering whether you truly appreciated the people who mattered most while you still had the chance. For many fans, Sam Elliott's confession no longer feels like celebrity gossip at all. It feels like watching a legendary figure slowly lower the emotional walls he spent decades building around himself. And the older he gets, the more those walls appear to crack. But according to some Hollywood insiders, the most emotional revelation may still be coming. Because people close to Elliott claim there is one deeply personal story about love, loss, and heartbreak he has never fully shared publicly. A story that could completely change how fans view the iconic actor forever. By the time the interview clips began spreading across the internet, millions of fans were already debating what Sam Elliott truly meant with his emotional confession. Some believed people were reading too deeply into a simple reflection about aging. Others became convinced the legendary actor was quietly revealing emotional pain he had hidden for decades. What nobody expected, however, was how quickly old stories from Hollywood's past would suddenly reappear. Entertainment blogs began revisiting forgotten rumors from the 1970s and 1980s, stories that had faded long before social media existed. Former studio employees, retired journalists, and longtime Hollywood observers started sharing memories about Elliott's early years in the industry. While many accounts conflicted with one another, several themes appeared repeatedly: loneliness, emotional isolation, and a private heartbreak that allegedly changed him forever. One former entertainment reporter claimed Elliott was never the same after a deeply personal relationship collapsed during his rise to fame. According to the reporter, the actor became far more guarded afterward, refusing to trust Hollywood culture the way many young actors did at the time. Whether the story is fully true remains impossible to verify, but fans immediately connected it to Elliott's recent comments about love and regret. And then another detail caught people's attention. During one appearance years ago, Elliott was asked whether fame had made his life happier. Instead of giving the expected answer, he reportedly paused and admitted that success often comes with personal costs people never see publicly. At the time, the comment barely made headlines. Today, fans see it very differently. Many now believe Elliott has spent years quietly carrying emotional burdens hidden beneath the calm image audiences admired for decades. What makes the situation especially emotional is how dramatically public perception of him has changed recently. For years, Elliott symbolized strength and certainty. He played cowboys, soldiers, and hardened men who always seemed emotionally unshakable. Audiences projected those qualities onto the actor himself. They assumed he lived with the same confidence and clarity as the characters he portrayed. But aging has revealed another side entirely. Recent appearances show a man who speaks slower, reflects deeper, and sometimes looks overwhelmed by memories from the past. Fans noticed moments where Elliott seemed emotionally exhausted discussing subjects like family, lost time, and relationships. In one interview, his expression reportedly changed completely when the topic shifted toward love. He looked heartbroken for a second, one viewer wrote online. That observation quickly spread across social media. Soon, people began analyzing everything: his body language, his tone of voice, even the long silences between answers. While some critics argued fans were overreacting, others insisted those emotional pauses revealed genuine pain beneath the surface. After all, Elliott has never been known for dramatic public performances off-screen. If he appears emotional, many fans believe it is real. And perhaps that authenticity is why this story has affected people so deeply. Unlike younger celebrities constantly surrounded by scandal, Elliott belongs to a fading generation of stars who protected their private lives carefully. That privacy created mystery, but it also created emotional distance between celebrities and audiences. Now, at 81 years old, Elliott seems less interested in maintaining distance. And that shift feels strangely powerful to longtime fans. Several psychologists commenting online suggested Elliott's recent openness may reflect something common among aging individuals: the desire to make peace with unresolved emotions before time runs out. As people grow older, memories often become more emotionally intense rather than less. Regrets sharpen. Lost relationships gain new meaning. Things once buried beneath busy careers suddenly return with unexpected force. If that is happening to Sam Elliott, fans may be witnessing a deeply human transformation unfolding publicly for the first time. And then came perhaps the most heartbreaking rumor of all. Some insiders quietly claimed Elliott has recently become increasingly reflective about mortality itself. Friends allegedly noticed him discussing legacy, memory, and the fear of leaving important things unsaid. According to one source, Elliott privately worries that people misunderstood him for most of his life, seeing only the tough cowboy image while missing the emotional complexity underneath. That claim struck fans hard, because for decades, audiences celebrated Sam Elliott precisely for appearing indestructible. Now, they are confronting the possibility that the man behind the legend may have been carrying sadness few people recognized. The emotional weight became even heavier when clips surfaced of Elliott discussing how quickly life changes. During one conversation, he reportedly admitted that people spend too much time believing there will always be more opportunities to fix relationships, express feelings, or reconnect with loved ones. Then one day, they realize time has disappeared. The silence after that statement reportedly lasted several seconds. For many viewers, it felt less like an actor giving an interview and more like a man confronting painful truths in real time. And strangely enough, that vulnerability may have made audiences love him even more. Fans flooded social media with emotional reactions, praising Elliott for showing honesty rarely seen in modern Hollywood. Many said his words reminded them of their own regrets involving lost love, aging parents, or relationships damaged by time and pride. Others admitted they found it difficult watching someone they viewed as a symbol of strength suddenly appear fragile. But the biggest mystery still remains unanswered. Who exactly was Sam Elliott talking about when he said, "She was the love of my life"? Was it truly Katharine Ross? A lost relationship from decades earlier? Or someone the public never even knew existed? The fact that Elliott refuses to clarify the statement has only intensified public fascination. Some believe he intentionally wants the mystery to remain unresolved. Others think the truth may simply be too personal, even now, to fully reveal. Yet according to several Hollywood insiders, there is one final chapter to this story that has never been publicly told. A chapter involving heartbreak, silence, and a decision Elliott allegedly made many years ago that still haunts him today. And if those rumors are true, the full story behind his emotional confession may be even more devastating than fans imagined. As speculation surrounding Sam Elliott continued spreading online, something unusual began happening in Hollywood. People who had worked with Elliott years earlier slowly started speaking about him in ways the public had rarely heard before. Not as the fearless cowboy legend audiences recognized on screen, but as an intensely emotional man who spent most of his life hiding vulnerability behind silence. One former colleague described him as someone who always carried sadness in his eyes, even during his happiest moments. Another claimed Elliott had a habit of withdrawing completely whenever conversations became too personal. According to several insiders, he could spend hours joking with cast members on set, then suddenly become distant the moment discussions turned toward relationships or family. That pattern only deepened public fascination. Fans began wondering whether the legendary actor had spent decades suppressing emotional pain while carefully maintaining the calm, controlled image that made him famous. And the more people revisited Elliott's old interviews, the more convincing that theory seemed to become. In one rarely discussed television appearance from years ago, Elliott was asked what frightened him most about growing older. His answer sounded almost haunting in retrospect. "Running out of time," he reportedly said quietly. At the time, the audience barely reacted. But today, after his recent emotional confession, those words feel completely different. Fans now interpret them as evidence of a man deeply aware that certain regrets never truly disappear. And according to some people close to Elliott, one regret in particular may have followed him for most of his adult life. Rumors have circulated for decades that Elliott once faced a painful crossroads between love and career during the earliest stage of his Hollywood rise. While details remain unclear, some insiders claim a serious relationship collapsed because of the demands of fame, distance, and emotional pressure. Others insist Elliott blamed himself for choices he made during that period and never fully recovered emotionally afterward. No verified evidence has ever confirmed those stories. But what makes them difficult for fans to ignore is Elliott's own behavior whenever the topic of love surfaces publicly. Unlike many celebrities who casually discuss former relationships, Elliott almost always appears deeply affected by such conversations. His tone changes, his body language tightens, and sometimes he seems lost in thought long after answering simple questions. To many viewers, it feels like watching someone revisit memories they cannot escape. The emotional impact became even stronger after fans noticed how differently Elliott now talks about masculinity and emotional strength. Earlier in his career, he often embraced the traditional image of toughness associated with his screen persona. But recent interviews reveal a much softer perspective. In one particularly emotional moment, Elliott reportedly admitted that real strength has nothing to do with pretending emotions do not exist. According to those present, he spoke slowly, almost carefully, as though each word carried personal meaning. For longtime fans, hearing that from Sam Elliott felt shocking. This was the same man generations grew up viewing as emotionally indestructible. The same actor whose voice alone symbolized confidence and control. Yet now, at 81 years old, he appears increasingly willing to acknowledge sadness, regret, and emotional vulnerability publicly. Some entertainment commentators believe aging has fundamentally changed Elliott's outlook on life. They argue that retirement, reflection, and the natural awareness of mortality often force people to reevaluate emotional experiences they once buried beneath work and routine. In Elliott's case, decades of silence may finally be giving way to honesty. And if that is true, fans may only be seeing the beginning. Several Hollywood insiders claim Elliott has become far more nostalgic in private over the last few years. Friends allegedly noticed him revisiting old photographs, discussing earlier chapters of his life, and speaking emotionally about people he no longer sees. One source even claimed Elliott occasionally becomes visibly emotional when discussing how quickly relationships can disappear over time. That detail resonated deeply with audiences online. Many fans admitted they no longer viewed the rumors surrounding Elliott as simple celebrity gossip. Instead, they saw something painfully relatable, an aging man wrestling with memories, missed opportunities, and the emotional cost of time itself. Perhaps that is why the story continues attracting so much attention. Because beneath the mystery and speculation lies a universal fear shared by millions of people. The fear of realizing too late which relationships truly mattered most. And according to observers, Elliott's recent appearances suggest that realization weighs heavily on him now. Viewers noticed moments where the actor appeared almost overwhelmed discussing the passage of time. In one interview clip, he reportedly fell silent for several seconds after mentioning how quickly life changes. The interviewer attempted moving to another subject, but Elliott remained reflective, staring downward as if caught inside his own memories. Fans described the moment as heartbreaking. Social media quickly filled with emotional reactions from viewers, saying they had never seen Sam Elliott look so vulnerable before. Some even admitted the interview changed how they viewed aging entirely. Watching a legendary figure confront regret so openly reminded audiences that fame, success, and admiration cannot protect anyone from emotional pain. But perhaps the most revealing detail came from someone who allegedly knew Elliott personally many years ago. According to the source, Elliott once believed staying emotionally guarded would protect him from heartbreak. Instead, it may have isolated him emotionally for much of his life. The insider claimed the actor eventually realized that silence often creates loneliness rather than safety, a realization that reportedly became stronger as he grew older. If true, that would explain why his recent confession affected people so deeply. Because what audiences are witnessing may not simply be a celebrity revisiting old rumors. It may be a man finally accepting that emotional honesty matters more than maintaining a carefully constructed image. And yet, despite all the interviews, speculation, and emotional public reactions, one mystery still remains untouched. There are persistent whispers in Hollywood that Elliott once wrote a deeply personal letter connected to the woman many believe inspired his love of my life confession, a letter that was never made public and allegedly contains truths he could never bring himself to say aloud. If those rumors are accurate, the emotional story behind Sam Elliott's confession may be far more tragic than anyone realizes. The rumors surrounding that alleged letter have haunted Sam Elliott for years. According to longtime Hollywood insiders, the letter was never intended for the public. Some claim it was written during one of the most emotionally difficult periods of Elliott's life, when his career was rising rapidly, but his personal world was quietly falling apart behind the scenes. Others insist the letter was composed much later, after years of reflection and regret had already transformed him emotionally. No one has ever produced the document publicly, and yet the whispers about it refuse to disappear. Part of the reason is because the story aligns so perfectly with the version of Sam Elliott many people are only beginning to understand now. Not the cowboy hero Hollywood created, but a deeply introspective man haunted by emotions he rarely allowed himself to express openly. One retired producer who worked near Elliott decades ago once described him as a man constantly looking backward, even during his biggest successes. At the time, few people understood what he meant. Today, fans think they finally do. Because over the last several years, Elliott has increasingly sounded like someone measuring his life not by awards or fame, but by relationships, memories, and emotional losses. And perhaps nowhere was that clearer than during a recent exchange that stunned viewers. While discussing aging, Elliott reportedly admitted there are moments from decades ago he still replays in his mind late at night. He did not explain which moments. He did not name names. But according to those watching, the pain in his expression was impossible to miss. That single moment intensified public curiosity more than ever before. People began asking themselves an uncomfortable question. What kind of memory stays powerful enough to affect someone after half a century? For some fans, the answer seemed obvious: love. But others suspect the story may involve something even more painful than romance alone. Several entertainment commentators have theorized that Elliott's emotional struggle may stem not only from losing someone important, but from believing he failed them somehow. That interpretation gained traction after older interviews resurfaced where Elliott spoke about personal responsibility, regret, and the importance of showing up emotionally for people you care about. One clip in particular spread rapidly online. In it, Elliott quietly reflected on how easy it is to become consumed by ambition, while assuming there will always be time later to repair relationships or express feelings honestly. Then he added something that left audiences shaken. Sometimes later never comes. The silence after that sentence reportedly lasted nearly 10 seconds. Fans described the moment as devastating because it sounded less like acting and more like confession. For decades, Sam Elliott built a career portraying men who always seemed certain of themselves. Men who walked into danger without hesitation. Men who rarely showed emotional weakness. But now, at 81 years old, audiences are watching that image slowly dissolve into something far more human. And strangely enough, people seem to love him even more because of it. Many viewers admitted Elliott's recent vulnerability reminded them of fathers, grandfathers, or older relatives who spent their lives hiding emotions until age finally softened them. Others said his reflections forced them to think about their own unresolved regrets and relationships. That emotional connection has transformed the story from celebrity gossip into something much larger. Because what people are responding to is not simply mystery, it is honesty. Or at least the closest version of honesty Elliott appears willing to give publicly. Still, the unanswered questions continue growing. Who is the woman behind the rumors? Why does Elliott still appear emotionally affected after so many years? And what exactly happened that left such a permanent mark on someone famous for emotional control? Some insiders believe the answers may never fully emerge because Elliott belongs to a generation that viewed privacy almost as sacred. Unlike modern celebrities who document every emotional experience publicly, actors from Elliott's era often carried pain silently for decades. Personal heartbreak was something endured privately, not transformed into headlines or public therapy sessions. That mindset may explain why Elliott's recent openness feels so extraordinary. To younger audiences, his emotional comments might seem relatively restrained. But to people familiar with his career, even these small glimpses of vulnerability are shocking. Sam Elliott spent most of his life avoiding exactly this kind of emotional exposure. And yet now, late in life, he seems increasingly unable or unwilling to hide it completely. Several fans noticed another heartbreaking pattern in recent interviews. Elliott frequently speaks about time as though he feels it slipping away. He reflects on mortality more openly. He discusses memory constantly. And there are moments where he appears almost overwhelmed by nostalgia itself. According to one longtime friend, Elliott has become far more emotional about the past than he ever used to be. That observation only fueled rumors further. Because many people believe unresolved emotions often grow stronger with age, not weaker. The distractions disappear. The noise fades. And eventually people are left alone with memories they spent decades trying to outrun. If that is happening to Sam Elliott now, then audiences may be witnessing a man confronting the emotional truth of his own life in real time. And perhaps the saddest part is this. For all his fame, admiration, and legendary status, Elliott increasingly sounds like someone realizing success cannot erase regret. No amount of iconic movie roles can restore lost years. No public image can silence certain memories forever. And no carefully guarded persona can completely protect someone from heartbreak. That realization may explain why fans found his recent confession so haunting. She was the love of my life. Simple words. Yet the way he delivered them carried the emotional weight of an entire lifetime. And according to several Hollywood insiders, there may still be one final revelation hidden behind those words. A deeply personal truth Elliott has protected for decades, because revealing it publicly would force him to confront the greatest emotional pain of his life once and for all. As the public fascination intensified, more attention turned toward the private life Sam Elliott had spent decades protecting so carefully. Fans were no longer satisfied with surface-level Hollywood stories. They wanted to understand the man beneath the legend, the man whose recent words sounded less like nostalgia and more like unresolved heartbreak. And the deeper people looked, the more complicated the story appeared to become. One detail repeatedly surfaced in conversations from former colleagues and longtime industry insiders. Elliott always seemed emotionally older than the people around him. Even during his younger years, he reportedly carried himself with a seriousness that felt unusual in Hollywood. While other actors chased parties, fame, and attention, Elliott often disappeared from social circles entirely once filming ended. Some people interpreted that behavior as discipline. Others now believe it may have been emotional self-protection. According to one former associate, Elliott had an intense fear of becoming emotionally exposed publicly. The source claimed he believed vulnerability could permanently damage both personal relationships and professional respect. That belief may explain why he spent years constructing the stoic image audiences came to associate with him. But suppressing emotions for decades comes with consequences. Psychologists who commented online about Elliott's recent interviews noted that unresolved emotional experiences often resurface later in life with surprising intensity. As people age, the psychological barriers they once depended on can weaken. Memories buried beneath careers, routines, and distractions suddenly become impossible to ignore. Fans now wonder if that exact process is unfolding publicly with Sam Elliott. Several moments from recent interviews seem to support the theory. In one particularly emotional exchange, Elliott reportedly admitted that some of the happiest moments of his life are also the most painful to remember now. When the interviewer asked why, he paused for several seconds before quietly responding that beautiful things don't last forever. The atmosphere in the room reportedly changed instantly. Viewers described the moment as deeply unsettling because Elliott appeared genuinely affected while speaking. His expression softened, his voice slowed, and for a brief moment he no longer looked like the towering Hollywood icon audiences recognized. He looked like an elderly man carrying memories too heavy to fully explain. That vulnerability changed everything. For years, fans admired Elliott because he represented emotional control and stability. But now people are connecting with him for an entirely different reason: honesty. Painful honesty. The kind rarely seen from celebrities who spend their lives protecting carefully managed public images. And perhaps that is why the rumors surrounding the mysterious woman refuse to disappear. Because audiences sense there is real emotion underneath the silence. Some Hollywood observers believe Elliott's recent reflections may stem from a growing awareness that time is running out to say certain things. At 81 years old, mortality naturally becomes more present in daily life. Friends disappear. Memories grow stronger. And people often begin reevaluating choices they once accepted without question. According to several insiders, Elliott has become increasingly reflective about those choices. One source claimed the actor privately regrets how much of his emotional life remained unspoken for so many years. Another alleged Elliott once admitted that being perceived as strong sometimes prevented him from expressing vulnerability, even when he desperately needed emotional connection. If true, that realization may be one of the saddest parts of the entire story. Because for decades, audiences celebrated Sam Elliott precisely for qualities that may have isolated him emotionally behind the scenes. The strong, silent cowboy. The fearless masculine figure. The man who never appeared shaken. Now fans are beginning to wonder how much emotional loneliness existed beneath that image all along. And then another surprising rumor surfaced. Several entertainment insiders quietly suggested that Elliott's emotional confession may have deeply affected people close to him personally. While no official statements confirmed this, some speculate his recent openness forced old memories and unresolved feelings back into public discussion within his own inner circle. That possibility only made the story feel more tragic. Because if Elliott truly spent decades protecting certain emotions privately, reopening those wounds now could be both liberating and painful at the same time. Viewers also noticed something increasingly difficult to ignore during his recent appearances: fatigue. Not physical exhaustion alone, but emotional fatigue. There are moments where Elliott seems emotionally drained discussing the past, almost as if carrying memories publicly has become heavier than remaining silent. Yet despite that discomfort, he continues speaking more openly than ever before. That contradiction fascinates audiences. Why would someone who spent a lifetime avoiding emotional exposure suddenly begin lowering those defenses at 81? Some believe the answer is simple. People eventually grow tired of pretending certain experiences no longer matter. And perhaps Sam Elliott has reached that point now. One longtime fan wrote online that watching Elliott's interviews feels like watching a man slowly making peace with his own life. The comment spread widely because it captured something many viewers were already sensing emotionally. This no longer feels like celebrity gossip. It feels like reflection, regret, acceptance, maybe even grief. And perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of all is the realization that some emotional truths arrive too late to change anything. You can recognize lost love. You can understand past mistakes. You can finally speak honestly about memories that shaped your life. But none of that restores time already gone. Elliott himself appeared to hint at that painful reality during another recent conversation. When asked whether people should express emotions more openly while they still can, he reportedly gave a faint smile before answering quietly, "You don't get as many chances as you think." The room reportedly fell silent again. For many fans, that sentence felt devastating because it sounded painfully personal. And according to several Hollywood insiders, there may still be one final secret connected to Elliott's past that explains why those words carried so much emotion. a secret involving a decision he allegedly made decades ago that changed not only his life, but the life of someone he never truly forgot. For weeks, the internet continued dissecting every interview, every pause, and every emotional statement made by Sam Elliott. But while fans focused on theories and speculation, people who had followed Elliott's career closely noticed something far more significant happening beneath the surface. He no longer seemed interested in protecting the myth. For most of his life, Elliott carefully controlled what the public saw. He rarely allowed cameras into his personal world. He avoided public drama. He almost never discussed emotional pain openly. That restraint helped preserve the mysterious image audiences loved for decades. But now, at 81 years old, cracks in that emotional armor are becoming impossible to ignore. And according to several Hollywood insiders, those cracks may reveal a man carrying one of the deepest regrets of his life. One former studio executive recently recalled a private conversation with Elliott many years ago during a difficult moment in his career. According to the executive, Elliott admitted there were things he wished he had handled differently when he was younger, especially regarding relationships and emotional priorities. He said success can distract you from what actually matters, the insider claimed. At the time, the comment seemed philosophical. Today, after Elliott's emotional confession, fans interpret it very differently. Many now believe the actor spent decades haunted not by fame itself, but by what fame may have cost him personally. That theory gained even more attention after older interviews resurfaced, showing Elliott speaking almost mournfully about missed time. In one clip, he reflected on how quickly years disappear, while people convince themselves they will always have another opportunity to fix unresolved issues later. But according to Elliott, later does not always arrive. The emotional power behind those reflections has deeply affected longtime fans because it feels so genuine. There is no sense that Elliott is performing vulnerability for attention. If anything, he often looks uncomfortable revealing even small pieces of his emotional life publicly. And that discomfort makes audiences trust him more. Several psychologists analyzing celebrity behavior noted that Elliott's recent openness resembles what experts sometimes call late-life emotional reckoning. As individuals age, especially after decades of emotional suppression, they often begin revisiting unresolved memories with new intensity. Regret becomes sharper, emotional truths become harder to avoid, and the desire for authenticity can eventually outweigh the desire for privacy. If that is happening to Sam Elliott now, it may explain why his interviews suddenly feel less guarded than ever before. But perhaps the most heartbreaking rumor involves something Elliott allegedly said in private years ago. According to one longtime Hollywood figure, Elliott once admitted he feared becoming emotionally distant from people he loved because he spent too much of his life trying to appear strong. The source claimed Elliott worried silence had damaged relationships he deeply valued. Whether true or not, that rumor resonates powerfully with fans because it aligns perfectly with the emotional tone of his recent interviews. Again and again, Elliott returns to the same themes: time, memory, regret, love, and the painful realization that some things cannot be repaired once enough years pass. In one particularly emotional appearance, Elliott reportedly became visibly overwhelmed, discussing how aging changes perspective. He explained that when people are younger, they often assume life moves slowly and opportunities will always return. But eventually, according to Elliott, people wake up and realize entire chapters of life vanished faster than they ever imagined possible. Viewers described the moment as devastating. For perhaps the first time in his public life, Sam Elliott no longer sounded like a man speaking from wisdom alone. He sounded like someone mourning parts of his own past. That emotional shift has transformed how audiences see him entirely. The cowboy legend once viewed as untouchable now appears deeply human, a man confronting vulnerability publicly after decades spent hiding behind strength and silence. Ironically, that transformation may have made him more respected than ever before, because people recognize authenticity when they see it. And Elliott's pain feels authentic. Many fans online admitted they found his recent interviews unexpectedly emotional because they reflected fears almost everyone carries privately. The fear of losing people, wasting time, or realizing too late what mattered most. One viewer wrote, "It feels like he's talking about all the things people wait too long to say." That comment quickly spread across social media because it captured exactly why Elliott's confession resonates so deeply. This is no longer simply a Hollywood story. It is about aging itself, about memory, about emotional survival, and about the quiet heartbreak of understanding your life more clearly only after much of it has already passed. Several entertainment insiders believe Elliott's emotional honesty may continue growing in the coming years. According to one source, people close to the actor noticed he has become increasingly reflective, sentimental, and willing to discuss painful subjects he once avoided completely. That possibility both fascinates and worries fans, because while audiences appreciate Elliott's vulnerability, many also sense how emotionally difficult these reflections may be for him personally. There are moments where he appears almost exhausted discussing the past, not physically tired, but emotionally worn down by memory itself. And perhaps that exhaustion explains why one particular rumor continues haunting Hollywood circles even now. The rumor that decades ago, Elliott made a decision involving someone he deeply loved because he believed it was necessary for his career and public image, only to spend years privately questioning whether it was the worst mistake of his life. No verified evidence has ever confirmed the story. But after hearing Elliott speak recently, many fans believe there may be truth hidden somewhere inside it. Because when Sam Elliott talks about love now, he does not sound nostalgic. He sounds haunted. And according to several insiders, there may still be one final conversation from his past, a conversation involving heartbreak, sacrifice, and goodbye that he has never fully forgiven himself for to this very day.